Your neighbor knows things about your golden retriever that you don't. They know what time the barking starts. They know how long it lasts. They know which days are worse. They've heard things through the wall that you will never hear because you're never there when they happen. Most golden retrievers look completely normal the moment you walk back through the door, calm, maybe a little excited, acting like nothing happened, which from their perspective, nothing did. But you've seen the evidence. The sofa cushion on the floor, the corner of the rug that wasn't like that this morning, the very specific silence of a golden retriever who knows something is different about the atmosphere when you walked in. You assumed it was boredom, maybe mischief, maybe just a bad day. But behavioral researchers have been doing something for decades that most owners haven't. They leave a camera running, walk out, and watch. And what those cameras capture, hour by hour, heartbeat by heartbeat, is one of the most revealing findings in animal psychology. Your golden retriever isn't just missing you when you're gone. Something specific is happening in their brain, and it starts before you even close the door. In 2010, researchers at the University of Milan installed cameras in the homes of 23 golden retrievers and left. Vocalization, barking, whining, howling, began at an average of 3 minutes and 15 seconds after departure. Destructive behavior within 7 minutes. 7 minutes! That's how long it takes before the shoes are at risk. But the more interesting finding was what came after, that first frantic phase, the barking, the door scratching, gradually subsides.
And from the outside, if you came home to a quiet house and nothing visibly destroyed, you'd assume the golden retriever had settled. It hadn't. What the camera showed was that as vocalization decreased, panting increased, heart rate stayed elevated. The golden retriever had shifted from one expression of distress to a different one. The noise stopped, but the physiological activation didn't. And researchers tracking behavior over longer periods found something even more telling. The pattern doesn't follow a clean decline. Every 23 to 28 minutes, there's a new spike, a renewed burst of movement or vocalization, followed by a quieter period, then another spike. Not settling, cycling. The silence between those spikes is not calm. Now, compare. And from the outside, if you came home to a quiet house and nothing visibly destroyed, you'd assume the golden retriever had settled. It hadn't. What the camera showed was that as vocalization decreased, panting increased, heart rate stayed elevated. The golden retriever had shifted from one expression of distress to a different one. The noise stopped, but the physiological activation didn't. And researchers tracking behavior over longer periods found something even telling. The pattern doesn't follow a clean decline. Every 23 to 28 minutes, there's a new spike, a renewed burst of movement or vocalization, followed by a quieter period, then another spike. Not settling, cycling. The silence between those spikes is not calm. Now, compare that to what cameras capture in golden retrievers without separation issues. Swedish researchers at the University of Agricultural Sciences left this group alone for up to 4 hours. These golden retrievers spent approximately 97% of their time in passive behavior, lying down, resting, occasionally checking the water bowl. Not distressed, not bored, not giving a damn. It's not a golden retriever in normal wear. It's a golden retriever in particular with not bored, waiting. The difference between those two groups isn't breed, it isn't age, and it's barely even about genetics. The research points to one variable above almost all others: what the golden retriever has been taught to expect. But before we get there, let's talk about what happens before you even leave. In the 1980s, why your golden retriever starts panicking before you close the door. Veterinary behaviorists Borchelt and Voith documented something that has been confirmed repeatedly since. Golden retrievers with separation anxiety often begin showing measurable stress responses while their owner is still in the house, not when the door closes, before the bag comes out.
Through simple conditioning, golden retrievers learn to chain your entire departure routine backwards. You check your phone, you put on your shoes, you glance at the time. Each of those actions, repeated hundreds of mornings in a row, has become a signal, and the signal means one thing: I'm about to be alone. By the time you reach the door, some golden retrievers are already panting, some are pacing, some are following you from room to room, like they know exactly what's coming and are hoping, somehow, that this time you'll stay. There's a practical implication here that challenges a lot of popular advice. The standard recommendation for years has been to desensitize your golden retriever to departure cues. Pick up your keys randomly throughout the day, put on your shoes, and then sit back down, so those cues lose their meaning. Researchers at the Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona reviewed this in 2014 and found the evidence more complicated than expected. Making departures unpredictable doesn't reduce fear for all golden retrievers. For some, it increases it.
Because the problem isn't the keys. The problem is the uncertainty about what happens after you go. Your golden retriever isn't afraid of your shoes. They're afraid you won't come back. The Royal Veterinary College ran a longitudinal study called Generation Pup, tracking 145 golden retrievers from adoption through their first 6 months of life. They were specifically looking for what predicted separation-related problems, and they found something that surprised a lot of trainers. Emotional goodbyes didn't cause it. Long farewells, big hugs at the door, the whole 5-minute production some of us do every morning, no significant effect. What mattered was the return. Golden retrievers whose owners came home to find damage and responded with visible upset, raised voices, prolonged reactions, that visible frustration directed at the golden retriever, were 6 times more likely to develop separation-related behaviors. The golden retriever doesn't connect your frustration to the chair leg it destroyed 4 hours ago. There's no chain of causation available to them over that time window. What the golden retriever connects your frustration to is your arrival, and gradually, your arrival becomes something to brace for. And here's why that matters. A golden retriever that's anxious about you coming home is a golden retriever that's more anxious about you leaving. The two ends of the absence get linked. You walk out, they panic. You walk back in, they panic again, for different reasons. The whole day becomes a loop of anticipatory stress. The same study found that early use of punishment, telling off, smacking, even deliberately ignoring, significantly increased. The golden retriever doesn't connect your frustration to the chair leg it destroyed 4 hours ago. There's no chain of causation available to them over that time window. What the golden retriever connects your frustration to is your arrival, and gradually, your arrival becomes something to brace for. And here's why that matters. A golden retriever that's anxious about you coming home is a golden retriever that's more anxious about you leaving. The two ends of the absence get linked. You walk out, they panic. You walk back in, they panic again, for different reasons. The whole day becomes a loop of anticipatory stress. The same study found that early use of punishment, telling off, smacking, even deliberately ignoring, significantly increased the. Somebody's neighbor has a very long week. This is the golden retriever that seems fine, the part that gets missed most often. And it tends to get missed because the golden retriever makes it easy to miss. You come home, the house is intact, no miss, no damage. Maybe your golden retriever looks up from the sofa with an expression that says, nothing in particular happened. You assume everything was fine. In the 1960s, Martin Seligman at Learned Helplessness, the University of Pennsylvania, ran a series of experiments that would become foundational to psychology. Golden retrievers were exposed to inescapable shocks. Later, when escape was possible, most of those golden retrievers didn't try. They lay down, accepted what was happening. He called it learned helplessness, the idea that somebody's neighbor is having a very long week. This is the golden retriever that seems fine, the part that gets missed most often. And it tends to get missed because the golden retriever makes it easy to miss.
You come home, the house is intact, no mess, no damage. Maybe your golden retriever looks up from the sofa with an expression that says nothing in particular happened. You assume everything was fine. In the 1960s, Martin Seligman at Learned Helplessness, the University of Pennsylvania, ran a series of experiments that would become foundational to psychology. Golden retrievers were exposed to inescapable shocks. Later, when escape was possible, most of those golden retrievers didn't try. They lay down, accepted what was happening. He called it learned helplessness, the idea that organisms learn to stop acting when experience teaches them that their actions don't change outcomes. In a major revision of that theory in 2016, Seligman acknowledged he'd framed it backwards. Passivity isn't something animals learn. Passivity is the brain's default when it's under prolonged, inescapable stress. What has to be actively built is the belief that your behavior can change the situation. A golden retriever that stops barking after an hour alone hasn't accepted the situation. It has stopped believing that its behavior matters. And there's a more recent layer to this. A 2019 study found that in severely anxious golden retrievers, long-term cortisol, measured from hair samples reflecting months of hormonal accumulation, was sometimes lower than in calmer golden retrievers. Not because they were less stressed, because their stress system had been running so long, it had started to burn out. The data showed that golden retrievers were less stressed because their stress system had been running so long, and that a golden retriever that seems fine might be the golden retriever you need to worry about most. Stressed owner, stressed golden retriever. Here's something that rarely gets mentioned outside veterinary research and should. In 2019, a team at Linköping University in Sweden measured long-term cortisol levels in 58 golden retriever owner pairs. Not the cortisol spike of a bad moment, the slow hormonal accumulation over weeks and months captured in hair samples. The levels were synchronized: stressed owner, stressed golden retriever; calm owner, calm golden retriever. When the research looked at the direction of that relationship, which one was driving the other, the answer was clear. The owner's cortisol was predicting the golden retriever's, not the reverse. What this means, a golden retriever already carrying a chronically elevated stress baseline doesn't start the separation from neutral. They start it from a deficit. The 8 hours you're gone aren't happening in isolation. They're happening on top of everything that's already accumulated. What actually works and what doesn't? The product industry around separation anxiety is enormous. Pheromone diffusers, calming supplements, anxiety wraps, white noise machines. Most owners have tried at least one of them. Most owners will tell you the results were somewhere between modest and nothing. And that's because most of them are treating the 8 hours the owner is gone. The actual point of intervention is the other 16. Let's be specific about the evidence. Golden retriever appeasing pheromone diffusers, sold under the brand name Adaptil, showed no significant improvement in barking, scratching, whining, or heart rate in the most rigorous placebo-controlled studies. The TV left on, no measurable effect versus silence. Puzzle toys provide minutes of engagement. For severely anxious golden retrievers, they can backfire entirely. Once the food is gone, the golden retriever registers that you're gone, and the real reaction begins. What does have consistent evidence is graduated exposure, not leaving for 5 minutes and hoping for the best, starting with seconds, walking to the door, coming back in, touching the handle, coming back in, building a history of return so incrementally that the golden retriever's nervous system has no chance to spike. It feels almost absurdly slow. Standing at your own front door for 30 seconds and then coming back inside doesn't feel like training. It feels like nothing. But what you're doing isn't teaching obedience. You're providing enough repetitions of the same sequence. You leave, you come back, that the golden retriever's prediction system starts to update. The 40-minute threshold. Practitioners who use this approach consistently report the same tipping point. Once a golden retriever can tolerate roughly 40 minutes of absence without distress, progress to 4 or 8 hours tends to follow relatively quickly. The 40-minute mark isn't special, it's just the point at which the golden retriever has accumulated enough evidence to update their internal prediction. For more severe cases, a 229 golden retriever clinical trial found that fluoxetine combined with behavior modification produced 73% improvement compared to 51% for behavior modification alone. And a separate study found that treated golden retrievers shifted what researchers called their cognitive bias, their tendency to interpret ambiguous situations pessimistically, toward a more neutral reading. The medication doesn't make them drowsy, it makes their brain more capable of forming new beliefs, which is the whole point. So here's what the cameras have been showing us for 30 years. Some golden retrievers wait. Some golden retrievers cycle through distress in 20-minute intervals for the entire duration of your absence. Some go quiet in a way that looks fine and isn't. And almost none of them connect what they're experiencing to anything you did wrong, or anything you can fix with a toy or a pheromone plug. What they're responding to is the absence of a specific nervous system. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that their nervous system, yours, the one that their own nervous system has been calibrated against month by month until your cortisol and theirs move in the same direction. The golden retrievers that struggle most aren't badly trained. They just haven't yet learned in their nervous system, not their brain, that the door opening and the door closing are the same event, just in different order. If this changed how you see what's happening while you're at work, subscribe and leave a comment.
Does your golden retriever show signs before you've even picked up your keys? A heartfelt thank you to all of you who have supported us through this journey. Thank you to everyone for the incredible support on the first video. I created this channel with so much love, hoping a handful of people might find it, but I never could have expected this level of response in my very first video. Thank you. This is just the beginning. See you in the next one, this time with a video for our cat lovers.